everybody. Really good to be here. Getting towards the graveyard shift at the end of the day, so I'll do my best to keep the energy high today. So I've chosen a simple topic today, which is leading your sales team as a human. And actually, Pete and Ollie have touched on a lot of the topics that I'm touching on as well today. So it's really good to hear that being reiterated. I've chosen this topic for one very simple reason, and that's because my impact as a founder of a sales business on the growth of our organization hasn't been influenced by any one conscious decision more than it has been influenced by the decision that I made to lead our team with that word authenticity. I call it as a human. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that I choose to lead people as a person first, not as a manager, not as a boss, not even as a leader. In fact, in the business, I really try to play just one role, and that role is the role of me, the role of Owen Richards. Simon Sinek says a boss has the title, a leader has the people. And I think that epitomizes the right mindset very well. For too long, we have defined people by title, with a bullet point list expected to define the parameters of what maybe you or I can and should do within an organization. Yet, as humans, we're complex, we're highly capable, at least most of us are. And we work best when we're free to, and when we're given a license to be creative and to innovate. Now, the average UK worker spends 1,676 hours at work every single year. Now, we know within the sales industry that it's probably higher than that. In fact, it's definitely higher than that. So how absurd is it that your input should be defined on maybe 1 or 2 pages of A4? As a human, the only way that we define ourselves as unique beings are things like DNA, fingerprints. These are made up of millions of elements, and you certainly can't categorize these things. So let's not try to simplify the notion of sales leadership, which is complex, by putting it in a box or trying to define it. The moment your role in sales leadership is put into a box that can't be allowed to overflow is the moment you say goodbye to innovation. It's when you say goodbye to true connection and genuine togetherness within your team. And of course, as a leader, it will be your fault. And that's where every time I think about leadership styles, and particularly within leading sales personalities, I'm always led back to this word, human, being human. Your leadership style is a choice. And I think people forget that. Every day you choose. But most people ignore the opportunity to make a conscious decision around that, and they leave their leadership style down to instinct. This is called leading by luck. And in business, you and I both know that luck is no strategy at all. So what do, in my opinion, sales professionals want in a leader based on my experience? Well, Ollie Sharp from Sales Loft touched on the mindful leadership piece earlier on, and I thought that was a really good point. But there's a couple of points that I think stand out, maybe 10 points or so I think I've got to touch on really quickly. Firstly, I think people want something really simple. It's somebody that they like. But to like you, they have to know you. You have to let them in. You have to let people see beyond the role and the title. Don't play a part. You have to let them into the real person. Secondly, they want someone they can trust. Don't tell them they can trust you. Show them and understand that it might take time for them to realize that you genuinely have their best interests at heart. They want someone who is honest with them. That means delivering tough messages at times. It means being upfront and delivering that feedback without the sugarcoating on it, but equally without emotion. It also means being honest about your own failures, and Pete talked about that a lot earlier. Self-awareness is critical for any good leader. They want someone they can relate to. Your team are imperfect as individuals, and if you pretend that you are not, then how on earth can they relate to you? There are times to be strong, and there are times to show vulnerability, just like you would at home with family or indeed with friends. They want someone who has feelings, who has emotion. There isn't a human being out there who hasn't had to show resilience. You have emotions and you battle with mental health at some level just because you are human. Don't rob your team of learning from your example around resilience by hiding your own battles and undervaluing the very skill itself that is demonstrated through that process. They all want somebody who educates and coaches, and we've heard a lot about that today. Make your team's development more important than your own, and ironically, you'll learn more through that process. They want someone who cares. Yep, you can fake this, but only for so long. And if you don't genuinely care about people, and not just for your own benefit, but for theirs as well, you will be found out. And caring means about their success, but also about their mental health and their well-being. And they want someone who's consistent. Relationships and trust are built on knowing where you are, being comfortable with expectations and the people around you. Whilst you can show emotions as a leader, you can't let them dictate how you behave and the decisions that you make. The ability to step away and create space is critical here. They want someone who gives transparency around numbers and explains the thought process behind that. Numbers are no good without context. So share the numbers, yes, but share the journey on how you got to those numbers, and ideally invite them to contribute to the way in which they're constructed. Context is king. They want someone who will give them ownership and encourage failure. Again, Pete talked about this earlier. We all know that people learn from failure. You can't box people in, so instead give them a healthy opportunity to fail and learn faster. Most importantly, create that culture where you talk openly about failure and where this is normal. Speak normally, because normal, simple language is all that you will ever need to motivate people, to educate people, and to acknowledge and reward people for their contribution. There are two leadership principles that always stand out for me, and I was reminded of these just a few weeks ago. Our new platform, which is Wellity, you'll see it on my t-shirt here, is a platform specifically designed for the sales industry that focuses on individual people within the sales industry's well-being, both mental and physical. The website's b-wellity.com, a shameless plug there. We interviewed a gentleman called Chris Brindley, MBE. He's on the board of Metro, was on the board of Metro Bank, is now the chair of the Rugby League World Cup 2021. He talked about two principles that always stick with me. One is mirrors and windows. Imagine a scenario where a CEO pulls you in as a sales leader at the end of the quarter and says, you know what, that's a poor quarter, we're behind, what's happening? A great leader will reflect that back onto themselves. That's a mirror. They'll say, that's my performance, that's on me. Equally, when a quarter goes well, that great leader will open the window, point out to the sales team and say, that's on them. And the second principle is that all great leaders are like umbrellas. They protect their team from the storm and from the rain. And I'll leave you with this final point, because we talk about this word authenticity. And being authentic means coming from a real place within. It's when our actions and our words are congruent with our beliefs and our values. It's being ourselves, not an imitation of ourselves or what we think we should be. I call that, in great leadership, extreme normality. All you need to do as a sales leader is bring the best version of your normal self.